Good afternoon. It's Thursday, April 18. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. For those of you watching online at onespotmedia.com, a special welcome to you. There's more condemnation of yesterday's mob killing in Stirling Castle, St. Andrew. 27-year-old Miguel Williams was beaten to death, then set on fire by angry residents who believe he was involved in the death of 8-year-old Shantae Skyers. His house, a small board structure, was also burnt to the ground. The attack came despite pleas from the police the day before for persons not to take matters into their own hands. While some residents insist Mr. Williams was involved in Shantae's death, others are not sure or believe he wasn't. Member of Parliament for St. Andrew West Rural, Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, says this is exactly what the authorities did not want.
We don't want any more of this to happen. We don't want anyone that is possibly innocent for you to take their life. And so I'm appealing to all the residents here to just let the police know what you know to help the investigation, because that's what we want. We want justice to be served, but we want justice to be served and the right person to be put away.
And still reeling from a week of grief, tragedy and murder, residents of Stirling Castle are grappling with what-ifs, pondering how the killings could have been prevented. The police say they have also been reviewing the case and have raised a number of issues that need to be addressed urgently.
A child abduction last Thursday, the grisly discovery of her body Tuesday, a mob killing on Wednesday. The past week has thrust Stirling Castle in St. Andrew into the spotlight, with many, including the police, now pinpointing a number of community hazards, especially for children.
So there were some real safety concerns, even this area that Shantae had to traverse by herself to get home is of grave concern, because it is somewhere that you would not recommend for a group of children to be traversing, much less a child.
But head of the JCF's Corporate Communications Unit, DSP Delia Garrick, says that's not the only concern there.
There are several reports of girls under the age of 16 being sexually assaulted. So there are some real concerns here that the police have been trying to treat with. Sisoka has gone into the areas, they have presented to the residents there. Other agencies have gone.
The cops say in the wake of the recent tragedies, they are now increasing their efforts to address those and other concerns.
I've had some discussion with the station commander not so long ago, and he has indicated that for that general area, they have several meetings. You know, they have community meetings, community WhatsApp groups. They have an effective way of communication. And he's now saying that he is now reaching out to other stakeholders with the intention of keeping a meeting on Thursday at the Red Hills Primary School, where critical stakeholders can come in, and hopefully this time members of the communities will turn out.
In addition to the efforts of the authorities, however, DSP Garrick is making a special appeal to parents.
Your children's safety is your responsibility, collectively as a community, individually as caregivers, and we the police, we're here to educate, to give you that support, but it must be a collective process.
Herman Green.
A policeman has been hospitalized in serious condition after being shot by gunmen who opened fire yesterday afternoon in Spalding Square, Clarendon. The gunmen had robbed a business place mere minutes earlier. The cop was shot while standing outside the Spalding Police Station, which falls within the Manchester Police Division. Acting head of the Manchester Police, Superintendent David White, gave details on the incident.
About 5:30, a group of men, heavily armed, dressed in army fatigue, went to a variety store in the Spalding Square, where they robbed the operators. On leaving, they fired several shots in the air to make with their escape. Passing the police station, they started to fire shots. Policeman who was at the front was shot and injured. Was taken to the hospital where he was operated on. He's serious but stable.
Meanwhile, Superintendent White says investigators are following strong leads, so he expects that a breakthrough will be made soon. The Bustamante Industrial Trade Union has reacted to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security's findings and commitment to firm action made before the PAAC yesterday. This is in relation to companies found to be flouting the law and engaged in practices that shortchange security guards. The union has expressed its support for action to be pursued against those companies, including compelling them to make restitution to disenfranchised guards who can be located and utilizing criminal sanctions where applicable. Vice President of the BITU, Rudolph Thomas, stated that the outcome of the ministry's investigation confirms more than just the complaints raised by the Jamaica Society of Industrial Security, JSIS. He says it has confirmed reports which the unions have been raising for years. Mr. Thomas further noted that the current focus, as well as the probity by the PAAC, has now put the reprehensible situation in a position where it must be addressed. There are approximately 23,000 registered security guards in Jamaica. For years, businesses have been complaining of the bureaucracy which they say creates a hindrance to trade. But as we'll hear in this report from TVJ's O'Shane Masters, the government says it's seeking to address the issue once and for all.
It will soon be easier for some businesses to carry out their operations, as the red tape which normally hinders trade will soon be lifted. That announcement from Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw at a Caribbean MSME conference recently. Addressing the gathering, Mr. Shaw said his ministry has received the go-ahead from Cabinet for those barriers to be lifted.
We have this propensity. We don't take away anything, we add on. So charges that have lost their useful life, we still keep them, and we add new charges.
But while the barriers are to be lifted, the Agriculture Minister says greater work is needed to create a leveled field for the micro, small and medium-sized enterprise sector within Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. His comment comes as he says that currently the level of importation of food within the hotel sector in the region is too high. He is therefore calling for greater trade relations within the region, especially with Jamaica.
And unlike many of the Caribbean member states who don't have the land or the population to do the production, we have it. We have it to sell to the tourists in Jamaica and to the tourists in the Caribbean region. I want to challenge our MSMEs to leverage the lands that have become available for agricultural production.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The opposition spokesman on energy is accusing the government of secrecy as it relates to the Port Royal development project. While welcoming the multi-billion-dollar project, Philip Paulwell wants residents, businesses and other stakeholders to be part of the process.
What about those early pioneers in the Port Royal Development Company, led by Bobby Stevens, who have done so much work in the developmental aspects of this project, at great cost to themselves and to the government? Why is this project being developed in such secrecy?
In the meantime, Philip Paulwell also raised concerns about the money being spent on streetlights.
While I am happy with the clearing of the streetlights arrears, I am concerned again with the lack of information on the implementation of the project to lower the bill for streetlights. In 2015, I signed the amendment to the JPSCO license to replace the 105,000 streetlights across Jamaica with energy-saving LED lamps over a 3-year period. It was the expectation that with the full rollout of the program, the yearly streetlight bill of some $2.8 billion would be cut by at least a half to about $1.4 billion.
Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips has again raised the issue of compensation for businesses which have suffered during the road expansion work currently being done in the Hagley Park Road area. Dr. Phillips toured the area yesterday speaking to business operators. He says they told him they have suffered damage to buildings and a fall in business of up to 70%. He's calling on the government to have dialogue to find a solution.
I am proposing to have further discussions with this group of business operators and citizens in the areas, really because I believe that the government should be having some discussion with them about compensation. I believe they're entitled to compensation, not necessarily 100% compensation for the loss of their businesses, but they should be entitled to something for the damage to buildings, the damage to their level of business operations that has been caused by this chaka-chaka implementation of the expansion, road expansion project on Agripark.
The St. James Municipal Corporation is on a collection drive to collect about $70 million owed by business operators who now occupy lots on the 5-hectare Bogue Industrial Estate property. Speaking at the monthly meeting of the corporation, Montego Bay Mayor Homer Davis explained that the money owed is the equivalent of 6 years of overdue rent and is needed for developmental purposes.
We have some 26 such persons owing a total of close to $70 million. We need this money to do the infrastructure development because a part of the condition is for us to develop the property in a way in which we can dispose of the property. And we can't have them there owing from $724,000 to a high of $5.5 million.
He noted that the corporation is in discussions with some of the business operators to settle their debt, but he wants others to do the same. Now, Transport Minister Robert Montague says his government is working to transform Boscobel in St. Mary into a free zone. At Wednesday's road opening ceremony in Gully Road, he explained that the current refurbishment of the Ian Fleming International Airport is the first step in making that a reality. He added that the government has a deal with an airline company to bring people from Northern Caribbean to shop in St. Mary.
At the airport behind me is to create a free zone, a shopping area, where just like what once Jamaicans used to go to Panama and Curacao and shop and carry back things, we want to create that kind of free zone here in Boscobel for people in the Northern Caribbean. So people in Cuba and Haiti will get an opportunity to come here and do their shopping.
He explained the opportunities for residents to benefit from the free zone.
Uniquely, what we're working with that airline to do is also to work with people in the community to have Airbnbs. Because a person come to do some shopping, they're not really come for a big wholesale hotel. They want a clean place to lay your head. So a lot of people will get a lot of opportunities to cater to visitors in the area.
Meanwhile, he noted that as part of the overall upgrade of the parish infrastructure, about 1.6 kilometers of road has been repaired. The Forestry Department says it's working to increase security, such as surveillance cameras and drones, to better protect the island's forest reserves. Addressing a committee meeting at the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, Public Relations and Corporate Communication Manager Francine Black-Richards explained that the illegal use of forest resources is also negatively impacting water supply.
It's more expensive to treat water, so the NWC actually has to spend more money to clean the water because the increased sedimentation goes into the water because of there's nothing on the surface to hold the soil together. So when it rains, all of it goes downstream. Decreased water retention capacity of our watershed area, so the trees are there to help absorb the water when the rain falls and then slowly release it back into our stream. So we're losing additional water that we could utilize in the dry season.
She says the Forestry Department is also upgrading its act for stiffer fines and penalties for persons operating without permits and license, such as removing timber and logging. We go down to sports. Tennis Jamaica is again heading for a controversial AGM and elections, with incumbent Aswad Morgan announcing that he will not be seeking re-election after initially announcing he would. Morgan has cited wanting to avoid another divisive elections as part of his reason. However, challenger John Azar says Morgan's decision has come as a surprise and has refuted his claims of divisiveness. More from TVJ's Jermaine Brown.
Aswad Morgan says after 16 consecutive years of serving Tennis Jamaica in various capacities, including as president, he'll be leaving the courts for the time being. Morgan, who has been Tennis Jamaica president since December 2017, had initially signaled his intention to seek re-election, but 2 weeks before the AGM and elections are held, he has had a change of heart. Although not wanting to create a racket, Morgan cites in a statement that a potential divisive elections was part of his reasons for changing his mind about seeking re-election.
Not to say that there was anything, a great deal of contentiousness or anything, but I think that once I saw the sort of the likely potential, I decided that this was certainly the best thing. I've served for 16 consecutive years, and sometimes too, you also have to do some amount of introspection and recognize that maybe it's a good time to step back and allow someone else to go forward.
But presidential candidate and challenger John Azar, who was involved in a torrid election process in 2015, which ended up in the courts, says there is no divisiveness.
Up until that cutoff day, Azar and I were speaking almost daily. He knew a challenge was coming because I told him, and he was extremely excited about participating in an election process. So to now say it's because of not wanting a divisive election, there's absolutely no divisiveness, none whatsoever.
The Tennis Jamaica AGM and elections will be held on April 30 at the Jamaica Olympic Association headquarters.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.